In this demo, we're going to be learning how to start from scratch in CATIA, basically go into sketch mode, create a part, throw it into an assembly, then take it into a drawing and detail it. So let's just go into Start menu, Part Design. We'll click OK. We'll start by a very simple sketch on the X and Y plane. We'll create a circle. I will constrain that circle to the origin. Over here, right click, coincidence. We need to place a diameter on it, so I'll make this diameter 100 millimeters. Excellent. Now we're going to exit out of sketch mode, back into part mode. I'm going to create a pad out of this one. Say it's 10 millimeters thick, or maybe even 20 millimeters. And then the size can be increased or decreased down the road. What I need to do also is to drop a hole. I'm going to go into the positioning sketch because I need to drag the center of this circle or hole to coincide with that axis, but at the same time be away from the origin at a specific distance. Let's just say 30 millimeters. I'm going to exit out of the sketch again, increase the diameter of the hole to something like a 15. I'm going to make sure I'm going to go through up to last, preview, hit OK. There we go. Now to repeat the hole around the cylinder, what's the best tool? It is actually the circular pattern. So what we need to do, first of all, select the reference, which is the cylindrical face. The object is going to be the hole only, not the whole object or body. I'm going to switch to the complete crown option and bump up the number to 5. And I'm going to preview that to see the results. Looks good. I'll hit OK. That's my first part. I'm going to also need to do some extra work to it, such as drafting. So we'll just come down and select this one as my drafted face. Select the bottom face as the neutral element and force the arrow to go upwards. And then key in a value of, say, 20 degrees. I'll preview. Looks pretty good. I'll hit OK. And the software generates what I was after. If you're looking for a more radical angle, just simply double-click the draft and type in maybe 40 degrees. And there you go. That's your object. Now we also need to shell this particular part. So let me just go in and hit shell, pick that face. 2 millimeters may be enough. We'll hit OK, and the software shells this particular part. I also forgot to add a hole at the top, so let's do that by simply hitting the hole function, hitting the top face, going into the sketch, and what I need to do is drag this slightly out so I can be able to constrain it properly to the origin. So we'll coincide that. We'll exit out of this one. We'll make the hole a 10 millimeter size, and we'll hit OK. We will preview that. Looks good. I'll hit OK, and there we are. I might need to drop a fillet on the top face. So I want to do that before the hole existed. Now we can easily right-click on the shell and select Define a Work Object. Now we're at that level in history. I'll simply go in and drop my fillet. Let's just say it is 3 millimeters. We'll preview that. Or maybe even reduce it down to 2 millimeters. Preview again. We'll hit OK. And there's our fillet. I'll enable the hole again by right-clicking and Define and Work Object. This part is pretty much complete. Let us take this part and put it into an assembly. So I'm going to go into Assembly Design and tile my windows horizontally. Now I'm going to simply drag this part, drop it onto the assembly, and there we go. We've just inserted our first part into the assembly. And this can be a driving part or driving force behind the rest of the assemblies that we're working with. Now, at this point, it's probably a good idea to save our file. So File, Save Management is the best tool to use in this case. You'll notice I have 2 brand new files. It's also recommended that you get into the habit of renaming your parts through the properties so they would be ready for Save Management. So I'm going to call this one the base disk, for instance. And at the assembly level, I'm going to call this assembly the main assembly. Simply. We'll hit OK. Now we're going to get into Save Management. As you can see, the two names populate here nicely. And now I'm going to go in and pick on the assembly and save as. Let's go into my CAD directory on the C drive, into CATIA. Let's create a brand new folder. We'll call it Disk Assembly. Excellent. So we'll make sure we're inside that folder, and we'll save that folder location to the software. It gives the location for both parts correctly. I'm going to simply hit OK, and both files are saved physically to the hard drive in case of a crash. Now we can actually close this file since we're done with it, the parts file, and expand the assembly. Now, right-click onto the assembly components, and we're interested in creating a brand new file. Let's do that by hitting New File. Now, you can use the assembly origin or the part origin. It doesn't matter in this case. I'll simply say yes and use the part origin as well. Now, I'm interested in right-clicking here and renaming this one into base plate, let's call it. And I'm going to simply hit OK. Now I'm going to access that base plate and double-click on the yellow gear to access the part design. Now I'm going to sketch and select one of the planes at the bottom here. I'm looking at it from the top, so I'm going to rotate 180 degrees by clicking on this icon here. And now we're going to start projecting some of the elements, or maybe even creating a circle first. So let's just make this one 150 to be bigger from that rest of it, or maybe even 130 would be better. I will coincide this center with the origin itself. Looks good. I'm going to simply exit and pad that, reverse the direction because it's the wrong direction, preview that, we'll hit OK, and we've ended up with this particular part. Now I forgot to accommodate the holes into this particular plate. So get back into that sketch that we forgot to add the holes to, and rotate 180 degrees, and simply zoom in to double-click on this particular icon, which is a project 3D element, and select the individual holes. And we will link up to every single hole and keep the links with each and every one. I'll simply exit out of here. The software accommodates that change, and if you rotate the part, you'll see the holes being accommodated. If you think the plate size is a little bit too much, simply double-click on the sketch again and change it down to the desired size. I'm going to say 115. And we'll exit out of here. One more part to be created here. I'm going to return to assembly mode by double-clicking. I will right-click on the main assembly, components, and create a brand new part. Again, we'll say yes and use the same origin here. And now what we need to do is simply right-click to rename this part to shaft. We'll call it drive shaft more specifically. Now, double-click on the yellow gear to access it. Again, we will sketch on the top face this time. We will say yes. We will project this particular circle right here. And that's it. We're going to exit out of here. We're going to pad this particular sketch. And what we need to do also is to start a second direction or second limit. Let's just say up to a plane, which will be this one over here. And we'll link up to it as well. As you can see, the software is forcing that down into the other direction. I'll also make this height over here 40 to make it go higher. And we'll preview. We'll hit OK, and that's my shaft part being created. Maybe we need to drop a chamfer onto this one. We will preview, we will hit OK, and the part looks OK. Probably a good chance to go in and color some of your parts. So this one, I need to right-click the properties, go into the graphics, and make it maybe yellow. This other shaft, we probably need to make some other color. And so we will pick purple, for instance. And that's it. So let's just say we have these parts. Now we want to move it into drawing mode. Let's take it from here into drawing mode by start and clicking on drafting. The standard I want is ANSI, so I'm going to simply click OK onto a blank sheet. Now nothing will happen until you select the front view icon and flip to the assembly, I'll simply now pick the top face over here, and we'll place the part into the middle of my sheet. Now, let's simply right-click, Properties, and change the sheet size to a C size, and hit OK. That will give us a larger sheet to work with, and there we go. Now we can start projecting this particular part by clicking on this icon here. Nice. Now we're going to go into an isometric view. We need to flip back to the part. Let's make sure we're in isometric view, and we'll pick anywhere on the part to bring it in to our environment or our drafting workbench. Looking good. All we have to do currently is to start dimensioning this particular part. So let me go in and put a dimension here. We might need a dimension from here to there. Please note this is an assembly, so we only need overall dimensioning only. So we will simply go in and create these basic dimensions or reference dimensions from here to there. Now, say for instance we need to make a design change. You need to flip back to the main assembly, and say for instance we need to change the hole size on one of the parts. So expand the basic disk and double click on one of the holes, which is the driving hole. I will change the diameter from 15 up to a 20, and we'll hit enter. I will click OK. The software will instantly update right away. I will go back to assembly mode. Any related parts to this particular part or base part will also update as soon as I hit the update button. Now the question is, will the drafting mode also update? Let's check that out. Zoom in closer. And the holes do get bigger in that case. Now, we also need to make high-level changes at the base plate. So we need to flip back to the part, double-click on the base plate, and CATIA has this nice function of selecting a face and enabling you to look at a preview. Looks very good. We'll hit OK. Even push it further up to a 7. We'll hit OK. We will double-click on the top-level assembly. We'll return to part mode, or drawing mode more specifically, and updates to see these particular fillets being added. Now you might be wondering, how can I add the bills of materials? Well, that's not very difficult. Let's just go into the Edit Sheet Background. So if you go into the Edit menu, you're able to edit the sheet background. And now we're able to click on this particular icon. And it wants to know what's your assembly. So we'll flip back and pick it from the tree. It picks us back. We'll click anywhere. The software places your bills of material. Probably a good chance, since we are in the background, to also place a title block. So how we do that is by clicking on this icon here. Give it a few seconds to load the VB script, and simply click on creation and hit OK. CATIA will take care of the rest for you, and you have yourself a nice looking title block. Maybe push the bill of materials up. We'll also select, go back to working views, and drag the isometric closer to the top, and we have ourselves a proper assembly. The only thing really missing is probably some ballooning, so let us go in and place some automatic ballooning. Now, it won't happen until we generate the ballooning in assembly mode. So let's return to assembly mode, generate numbering. I want integers. I'll hit OK, done. Flip back to your drawing and select the specific tool, which is called Generate Balloons. The software will place them, as you can see here on my screen. Now, it's important to note that the frame that's active is the orange one. So if you don't want it to place onto this particular one, just double-click on the other assembly view and generate the balloons onto that particular view. Drag your balloons into desired positions, and the assembly has been completed. So we just have to save our file using the Save Management tool. It's easy to simply click on the individual parts and save them off to their respective folders. The software propagates the directory